5:30. Be very official. Calling to order this Finance Budget and Personnel Committee for Tuesday, August 1st, 2023. Are there any potential conflicts of interest from anybody? No, we will move on. Citizens' comments. Citizens' comments. Citizens' comments. None. 4, consent agenda. Minutes of the July 18th, 2023 meeting, bills and payroll, monthly position control report, and report of personal actions.
Move accept as filed.
So we have a motion by Ed, second by Andrew. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, that is approved. We'll skip number 5 because nothing was removed. 6, request to recommend council approval of budget resolution number 2023 repairs for fire truck number 1 presented by Chief Fletty.
Good evening. So in 2022, our truck sustained damage on 2 separate occasions in which we filed for insurance claim. Insurance was applied in each claim. We did pay the $1,000 deductible. But due to supply chain issues and the fact that we had to wait to get engine 2 repaired in 2022, we had to push the truck repairs into 2023. Unbeknownst to us, that money was put into the general fund and was not transferred forward into 2023. So that insurance money was deposited in 2022, but not transferred to 2023. So I guess what we're asking for is to use the money that was deposited in 2022 in the amount of $35,886.98 to be used this year in 2023 here relatively shortly, hopefully, to pay for truck 1 repairs. And that's the basis of this budget resolution. So I'd ask that you approve budget resolution 20-2023 as is presented.
Okay. Yes, Brian.
Move to approve.
So we have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Andrew? Any questions?
Have we straightened out?
Go ahead.
Have we straightened out the protocol for how those insurance? I knew he was here for a reason. We straightened out that protocol so that there's a separate account for insurance proceeds that are used for their intended purpose.
Yes. So really what would end up happening is we would get a prepaid, something that goes on the balance sheet. And typically, as we receive these payments, they go into an expense account as a negative. And so that was the prior policies, okay? We put in these payments, they go in as a negative expense, they offset the actual expense that comes through, everything washes out. Well, when you have something that carries over a year, then something like this occurs, where
we do a special thing at the end of every year. We ask for carryovers. And so is that something that we should look at and be more careful about in the future?
Correct. That's something else. The other type of item that we thought of doing instead is putting these insurance proceeds directly into the balance sheet account and reconciling that balance sheet account by end of year. And that way we can catch everything inside of that account and say, okay, well, what should have come out of this account? And then pull it in and offset the expenses that are in. So that's typically, I would like to see that process instead, as far as putting in the balance sheet account versus waiting, because things get missed. And I just, obviously.
You're going to change it, right?
So yeah,
good.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any other questions?
Thanks, Kurt.
So we do have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Number 7, request to recommend council approval of budget resolution number 2020-23, increasing the 2023 budget for UWSP Marshfield capital projects by $1,556 presented by Steve Barg, City Administrator.
Thank you. Well, I think you know that some of our capital improvement program items can be a little bit of a long and winding road as they go through the process. Especially been the case recently when we've had increasing costs due to inflation and supply chain issues and those types of things, that getting materials has been harder and sometimes the expenses have gone up. That is the case over the last year or a little bit over that with UWSP Marshfield campus. I'm going to kind of be reading a little bit from the memo just to make sure I get the details right as Jennifer laid them out. But we did budget $90,000 along with the county's $90,000 to replace a 200-ton chiller back in 2022. Project, it was estimated at that time at $180,000 and $12,000 for sidewalk as well at that time. Well, the chiller project ultimately had to be revised as they found out that the estimate was going to be way over what they expected. And so they decided to look at purchasing a 150-ton chiller instead, and they looked for new quotes for that. And the quotes they got were more in the line of $210,000. So both the city and the county passed resolutions to add another $15,000 apiece into the pot to bring the 180 to a total of $210,000. Ultimately, the cost of installation, which is now complete, was $220,330, roughly $10,330 over the budget. So both entities would be required to kick in another $53.58 to make it work. However, I mentioned that they had also gotten $12,000 for the parking lot and sidewalk repairs. Those came in under budget by $3,802. So ultimately, when you do the math, it comes out that they'd be looking for an additional $1,556 from both the city of Marshfield and Wood County. And just to note that the project in the works for 2023, it's the replacement of an HVAC rooftop unit. That looks like it's going to come in less than the estimated $100,000. So that's going to be positive in terms of the actual dollars that will be available in the account to cover the shortfall. So what we're looking to do tonight is merely to increase the budget of the account of Public Facilities Capital Outlay Fund by $1,556 to cover that shortfall on the chiller project. And we would ask for recommendation to council to approve budget resolution 22-2023.
Okay. What's your pleasure? Ed?
So moved.
So we have a motion?
Second.
Second by Brian. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on. Number 8, request to recommend council approval of agreement of EMS billing and collection services with EMS/MC, formerly LifeQuest, presented by Steve Barb, City Administrator.
Thank you. Well, on May 23rd of this year, almost 3 months ago, the contract with LifeQuest, our ambulance billing and collections provider, expired. But as you may recall, earlier in that month, we did approve a 90-day extension with LifeQuest to work through the issues. Part of the deal is that they have been bought out and they are now a new company name, EMS/MC. And that also added to the time necessary to review the new agreement and make sure that everybody was satisfied before we signed a longer-term agreement. So anyway, the terms of the contract are not really material different than the previous contract. The city attorney did raise a number of questions and concerns. They've all been addressed, as I understand, successfully with the company. And the agreement that you have in your packet does reflect something that city staff and the provider are on board with. All the recommendations of the city attorney were incorporated into the final version. So anyway, this will be for 3 years upon agreement, and it'll be the same terms and conditions for successive 1-year terms, unless either party gives a notice of intent not to renew. So staff at this time would recommend that the committee recommend council approval to execute the new 3-year agreement with EMS/MC for ambulance billing and collection services.
Okay. Andrew, is that a motion? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Brian. Any questions from the committee? I have a question if we can we do that before we vote? Should we vote? Okay, and maybe Chief Letty could answer this. How are they doing on collections? Because I know they made us a lot of promises when they first came in and how great they were and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just wondering if they're living up to their reputation. Okay, that's all right.
Can I start? Sure. Yeah, so I don't really have the numbers in front of me from the standpoint, like I've toyed with them, I've looked at them. It's around 40-some-ish% as far as net collected revenue. But really, the questions can be answered in a myriad of ways. And I don't want to confuse the council nor the FBP about it because medical billing and collections is a monster on its own. Really, you have the front piece, which is the collection from the insurance. then it's collection from the patient. If you have denials in there, it gets really confusing. If you have a patient that's unwilling to pay, it gets also confusing. So it's depending upon what level you're talking about as far as from a collection standpoint. Whether it's upfront from the insurance, then it's around 40 to 45, or when we're talking about everything, 40 to 45% is that collection amount. We have seen some increases in Medicaid, woohoo, because they've actually increased their payment rate. That's good. But yeah, it's nothing's beyond stellar. I think I looked at it around, we're on track to meet what we had budgeted of, I think, about 1.5 million. I think we're going to meet that at least. So if we stay status quo, because through June we were at like $790,000 net collected. So,
Okay.
but,
Okay.
yeah.
I can just add in that we're working with pretty much the same staff that we were before when they were LifeQuest. So that's a positive that we're able to continue that relationship. The second thing is we moved our fire billing also over to this company. So it's kind of all under one umbrella now. So it's been going well through the transition, I guess. There's a little rocky there for a little bit, but I think we've got that all sorted out. So I can say that for that. So
Okay.
One more.
Sure, go ahead.
And just to let you know that we are cognizant of trying to keep track of them as they move from one entity to another. We're trying to establish the baseline of what we could say, here's what we did when we came out of this, like when we were previous just LifeQuest. How are we doing now? That's going to be a question that's going to be answered over the next 12 months. You know, as we develop in this relationship, what's the baseline and how are we doing now is going to become a real thing that we have to kind of look at. So we're doing the baseline test now.
Perfect. So you're going to follow and keep your eye on that. And
As we do. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, great. That's awesome. Thank you.
Oh, number
Ed?
Yeah, okay, but before you go, your last comment just raised a red flag, something that I should wonder about. What is the alternative to this? If we find out this isn't working, what is the alternative, and what are you doing to prepare for that as a contingency?
there are
Do anything as
there are other billing companies out there, but from what I understand, LifeQuest is kind of, or previously LifeQuest is kind of the gold medal, I guess, if you will, as far as companies for billing. The other option is obviously we went from billing in-house, but with the call volume the way it is, I don't think we could do it with 1.5 staff anymore. So those are kind of the options out there right now. And I mean, we could explore a different company, but this EMSMC has been buying up several of the other companies as well, such as I believe Andrea's Billing as well has bought up for the same company. So the options are getting a little bit limited as far as billing companies out there.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? So we do have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, that passes. Let's see, number 9, request to recommend council approval of an increase in the sale price of land in the city's business and industrial parks to $20,000 an acre effective January 1st, 2024, presented by Steve Barg.
Thank you. Well, I came here in January of 2011, and when I arrived, the asking price for our business and industrial park land was $10,000 an acre. I was led to believe it was way before that at $10,000 an acre. I never looked up to see when that was put in place. Perhaps it was even back to the dates when those parks were established, I don't know, but it's certainly been at least 12 plus years at this point. And recently we had a prospect for Yellowstone Industrial Park. It actually didn't come to fruition, but as part of it, our assessor took a look at the value before and after the project, what it would have been, the tax value, the improvement that company was contemplating. And as part of it, he again indicated that our the assessed value or the asking price we have for that land is fairly low. He estimated that it would be $19,000 an acre upon the sale to this company if in fact they bought it and built on it. And we ought to be looking at that type of price. So my thought is we should raise it to $20,000 an acre for both the business and industrial park. The idea being that if we get a good prospect, we always evaluate the total package we might offer to them. So certainly we can always refund the purchase price. We've done that historically. If a company builds the improvement that we expected them to construct, producing the tax value and the jobs that we were looking for, we always reserve the right to refund all or part of that as part of our offer. But it does set the price for what it's more commensurate to be rather than what we've been undervaluing for a while. We do have a couple of prospects in the hopper that we're talking with, so we don't want to put anything in jeopardy right now. That's why the idea of starting it on January 1st rather than immediately. But I would recommend that the committee recommend council approval to raise the asking price for our business and industrial parkland from $10,000 an acre to $20,000 an acre, effective January 1st, 2024. And this would also, as I put in my note, be brought to the EDB on Thursday morning for their review and comment before it ends up at the council level.
All right, okay, so what's your pleasure?
I'll move to increase it to 20,000 an acre.
So we have a motion by Brian. Do we have a second? A second by Andrew. Ed, go ahead.
Well, there are 2 points that I wanted to make on this. One is we all know that when they build, if we sell the land and development takes place on it, we're going to give them back that money. And the reason we do that is because we're nice guys. It's because we're in competition with everybody else in the United States for industrial activity. So basically, raising the tax, unless there's some reason that it would raise the equalized value of the finished product, and with the city would collect taxes off of that raise, but that would be almost minuscule between in a difference between $10,000 and $20,000, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the asking price is really not about what the ultimate tax value is in terms of what the company is going to pay. It's more our way of saying that we believe the land is really worth $20,000 an acre. Now, keep in mind that historically we have refunded the purchase price upon the construction of the improvement. And we don't have to do that. I mean, we get some people who come to us and say, hey, look, I want to put up a $5 million building and I want to employ 60 people at $25 an hour. That's very different than if a company says, hey, look, we'd like 3 or 4 acres. It's not going to be a big thing, but we think we could fit in your park and look good. We may well decide that we don't want to extend much of a discount at all to the asking price. That's all on us. We reserve the right to do that. Have we done it a lot? Yeah. Do we have to just because someone is on our doorstep? No.
The point is, it doesn't make any point. I mean, we know we're going to give that land away anyway, because that's how we compete to get them into the industrial park to begin with. I mean, I just don't see the need for doing that.
If it's a desired prospect that's going to bring tax base and jobs, yes. But again, I just implore you to think about some of the ones we've seen over time, and I'm not being disparaging toward any particular prospect that we've had, but somebody who wants to have some land, what they're doing is not really going to bring a whole lot of tax base or jobs. It might fit in the industrial park. It might, occupy a parcel that maybe is less desirable in some way. But the idea that we're going to reduce the purchase price for them may be a big question mark, quite frankly. And we reserve the right to say we're not going to reduce it to zero, or we're going to maybe only reduce it a little bit, because it's not provided. This is the business side of government. The government side of government is where we put in roads and parks. The business side is where we make business decisions. So we reserve the right to say, yep, we'll refund the total purchase price or a part of it. Or honestly, we wouldn't mind having you here. We're excited, but we're not going to give you $20,000 an acre back as part of this transaction. That's always our call.
I still maintain, as long as we're in competition, it's a foolhardy thing to do.
It probably will be more times than not, especially for the desirable prospects. Think of some of the ones we've landed out there with PCA and others, but I'm not arguing with you. It's just that it's always going to be our call. It's a chip we have to decide whether or not we want to grant that refund based upon what they're giving to us. What are they bringing to the table for the city of Marshfield?
Andrew?
Microphone.
Thank you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe I'm thinking about this the wrong way, but if we increase the value of that to 20,000, doesn't it give us more flexibility to come down? So if we want to attract business A, we can offer more to them as opposed to only coming down, let's say 5,000. We want to discount it by 50%. We could come down 10,000.
Yeah, that is true. I would agree with that statement.
But then that would hypothetically give us more leverage, more ammunition to attract businesses that we feel are desirable.
Yeah, I think that's the correct statement. I also think that the $20,000 an acre, you might think of somebody from Madison or somewhere else is looking at it thinking, wow, 20,000 an acre, I would have expected it to be less in Marshfield, Wisconsin. But I mean, it shows that we have prepared, and we're trying to get the certified site status where we're showing ourselves as shovel ready in the park. It shows that we think there's a value, and we hope that they will see it. But again, I'll say for the final time, they bring us a lot of jobs, good paying jobs. They bring us a good tax base. Yeah, obviously we're going to look at reducing it. It's like I said, it's kind of like a chip that we have to play to the degree that we want to play it.
Anything else? So we do have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
All right, 10, are we on 10? 10. Request to recommend council approval of a job description and pay range for the position of Assistant City Administrator / Community Development Director, presented by Sarah Dressel, Human Resources Director. Sarah.
Thank you. So at the last council meeting on the 25th, I did present to the Common Council at that time proposed essential job functions and other details that were going to go into the Assistant City Administrator / Community Development Director position. Based on that meeting, a request was made that feedback and suggestions be sent to me by Friday so that I could prepare kind of a final draft, send that off to McGrath for review of the compensation piece, and then hopefully bring to this group then tonight a final draft. So I sent to everyone yesterday evening a copy of the job description, which I've also handed out here today, that is essentially taking all that feedback and suggestions and put it into a final draft, which McGrath did return a compensation range. And so wanted to present that to this group tonight. Certainly I can answer any questions and would be looking to move this forward to the Common Council for final approval as well. But I certainly can answer any questions and gain any more feedback that you might have.
Thank you, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, yes, Ed?
Okay, I have just, I look at it, I think this is well done. I like what's happened here. The couple things, one on under essential job functions, these provides leadership and management to all assigned directors and department heads. Should we verify that should be all development division directors and department heads? Or is that, do you think that's enough to tell the intent is?
So I kind of purposefully a little bit left very specific departments off, just in case we have someone that maybe is super strong in development services, but their initial, when they first step into the position, it's really going to be around that since we haven't had any leadership in that for a while. So maybe it will be additional departments thereafter as they grow within their position. I think that's something that if we, right now, Public Works and Parks and Recreation, those directors, are pretty seasoned directors and probably wouldn't need as much attention. And so that this would be something that they could grow into, but certainly the expectation would be that, yes, they would grow into that and it could very well be that we find someone super seasoned and they can just take everybody on right away. But I wanted to keep it kind of more flexible just to be on the safe side, depending on their experience.
Ed, do you have anything else? No? Okay.
Just a quick question, one more for Sarah. That you on the second page here on number 9 says manage and coordinates economic development activities between city, EDB and CDA, Mackey, Main Street, and BID with the objective to plan, coordinate, and implement economic development and redevelopment. That is manage and what do you think manage and coordinate means. Does it mean taking a leadership position? A team leader type role or what? I mean, is that, I think that's sort of what we wanted to get at. And do you feel comfortable with this?
I do, because I think this offers a little bit of flexibility as well, where, this could be maybe a stretch goal for someone on their team. If they wanted to, they could kind of direct and coordinate the activities of someone on their team to be a part of some of these things, or they themselves could be a part of it depending on the scope of whatever's coming in. So I think it, again, kind of leaves a little bit of room for them dependent on what their preference is.
And, okay, and one last thing. You've experienced a minimum required 10 years of progressively responsible professional level experience in planning or economic development, and to include yada, 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 yada. 5 or more years of supervisory experience. Is that going to scare some off? If that 10 years is a hard number for us, or could we try something different? I know this is a senior person that we're looking at, and I've discussed that with you, but but I don't know that there are many guys that are out there with 10 years or more of experience that, everybody's having trouble finding economic development type, and for that matter, city administrator type.
Right. And I definitely would say, with that feedback, I kind of looked at all of the current director positions as well as the city administrator position. And we really kind of put the range typically for experience anywhere between 5 and 10 years. So it kind of depends on the position. So I think if we wanted to, we could just mirror those positions and just go with 5 to 10 years of experience. And part of that would probably depend on where they would fall in the scale as well for pay.
Right.
So I can make that change.
You could regulate it by pay, right?
Correct.
Excellent. Okay, I would be much in favor of the 5 to 10, or maybe even 5 to 8 or something, so it doesn't scare people away.
Okay.
Andrew.
I did have one question though. So with kind of piggybacking off that 5 to 10, so let's say we have 5 to 10 and someone comes in with 8 years or maybe 4 years, just under the threshold, but the rest of qualifications are outstanding. Would we consider that person or no? Is it basically, let me rephrase it. Is that experience a hard experience number where they're not even getting a foot in the door if they don't meet that? Or will we look at some candidates depending on what it is, obviously deferring to the ones who have the experience that we need?
I would definitely say that's where the preferred optional piece would come in, where it's a combination of education, training, and experience that would equal kind of an equivalent of that. So I think, to your point, if they have, a really stellar resume in every other way and experience and stuff like that, I think that would weigh heavily into that as well. So maybe they have a lot more academic experience and maybe a little bit less on the actual out in the field experience, but that kind of equates to what we're looking for. I think we would certainly take that into account for sure.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, we don't have any. Okay, so we don't have a motion. Would anybody like to make one? Ed?
I'd make a motion to approve it with the changes suggested.
And do we have a second? Andrew? So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 11. Staff report quarterly update on the city's shared ride taxi service presented by Steve Barg, City Administrator.
Actually, I'm going to defer to Jordan. I didn't think he was going to be here tonight for some reason. That's my mistake. He is, and he was the one who wrote the staff memo. Take it away, Jordan.
Howdy. So nothing really is in action on this item, so just more of your information. So we had a compliance site review, which is done every 5 years from the Federal Transportation Administration regarding our shared ride service. If you're not aware of what our shared ride service is, it's all those white vans that have the checkered flags on them, that have the phone number on it. That's Marshfield Transit. That's what we provide vehicles for, what we provide a grant application for, and also have to follow all the different regs and rules that go with it, including this compliance site review. As an advisory comment from that compliance site review, there was a corrective action plan. We've done multiple policy changes to be up to code with that. What they advised was that the subrecipient, us, City of Marshfield, would be best practice to provide quarterly Marshfield Public Transit financial and operating reports to the City Council. Now, I figured let's not you guys are a wing of the city council, obviously the finance portion, so that would probably best fit here. This is an advisory comment, so you don't have to actually do anything. But in good faith, we're going to do so and follow up with an update. So on the update, you'll find, I think it's page 46 and 47 of the packet today. There's a variety of financial information and operational statistics there. I've made some observations. One in particular that I really want to bring forward is expenses are slightly under budget, 47.7 versus agency fares, which are slightly above budget, which is at 58.1. So we're getting more money and spending less compared to budget. So we're kind of on track. It's good. Another item too that was unsuspected from the contract this year is that we're going to get ARPA dollars, which we have received in prior years, which is why we really haven't had to kick in a local share to this. Usually we're required to put in 20% of the local share. ARPA dollars have been kind of in there helping us out these past few years so that we haven't really had to kick in. And they're going to also be here. I think this is the last year that we're going to receive them, but it was unexpected and it's going to be helpful. So one of the last things that I want to talk about is that we're currently going to be going in for a RFP for this shared SRT is what it's called, Shared Ride Transit program. And this is for 5 years. And so we need to solicit a group of members from possibly council, also from the city administration, that review the answers to these the solicitation for request for proposal for these services. So we'll want to be looking at getting that group together in between October and November, or finding those group members within the next few weeks to a month. In order to get that group ready, because that is a hard timeline that we have to meet. So if there's any questions, feel free to let me know them. So.
Okay. Are there questions?
Just for Steve, have we got any complaints lately from citizens?
You know, I should bring a complaint update. I haven't brought one of those for a little while. They just trickle in. I had another one yesterday that I forwarded to the provider. I would say that they're probably in the neighborhood of, on average, one every couple of months.
Okay.
Typically a wait time issue or some conflict that came up with the driver, and they're usually able to work through. It's been pretty light.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anything, Ed, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. There was one complaint I had, but it came from the transit system to the city. They asked me, they called me on Sunday evening and asked me to relay that and ask the city administrator to deal with it with proper agency. During the Hub City days, the car exhibitors blocked the ability for the buses to get out. And they had a great deal of trouble with that. Then they had, I guess the dispatchers were going crazy because there were delays, substantial delays. And I'd like to ask you to, I'm not quite sure if this is street department or Main Street or who, but I'd like to ask the city administrator's intervention in it.
Yeah, no, I'll follow up. I can see where they would get locked in otherwise with the blocking of roads, and that obviously can't happen when they need to get out in service. So
it has nothing to do with their sheet here, but it's something that they needed to have expressed. Just one quick question for you, Jordan, though, is the numbers we're seeing on here, especially on the second page, on the agency fare trips and the passenger trips, are those aren't the same thing? You could add those together for total trips, right?
Yeah, agency fare trips and passenger trips are not the same thing. Those can be added together for total. Yep, I just didn't put it on as a total.
Okay, and then the numbers for 2023 are through July, or is that estimated for the entire year?
Right, so that is really our data trickles in a month late. So it's January through June. So it's a 6-month time frame, so first 2 quarters. So, and that's for all of 2023 through 2021 on the statistical page. On the financial page, it's first 6 months of the year for 2023 and full years for 2022.
And this was also why we had that deluge of affirmative action plans and things coming because of your, yes.
Because of the compliance site review, yes.
Yeah, been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. Okay,
it was a lot of fun.
Andrew, did you have something?
Yeah, just for my edification, RFP stands for request for
Proposal.
proposal.
Yeah, whenever we get, basically, whenever we're offering a big contract out there to any organization, we have to go through a solicitation for everybody that can potentially do it. So that we're not seeming unfair.
Oh, of course. Awesome. Thank you.
All right, so that was for informational only. There's nothing else to do on that. I guess I would just ask Steve to put out an email of interest and who would want to serve on that RFP committee.
Yep, can do. Thank you.
All right, 12, suggested items for future agendas. Anybody got any future agendas? No. All right, with that, we will adjourn. Motion to adjourn by Ed, second by Brian. We are adjourned.